Hello, welcome back to Elise Reads and Speaks. Today I am bringing you my TBR for the Trope-ical Readathon. So you might think this sounds familiar because I did it in March of this year, and I also did it in last August, and now I'm doing it again. I think this readathon is so much fun. I also think it's very clever. I like the Discord chats, so if it's something that sounds interesting to you, I will put links below, and you can go and claim a team and join all the fun. All right, so this readathon, just to refresh your memory, it has a bunch of prompts that are common tropes in reading. However, if you can't find one to fit that trope, or if you just don't like that trope, you can choose the alternate prompt. So I'll let you know what I have chosen for each. So to kick it off, the first trope is absent or dead parents, or you could choose a book that has multiple authors. I went for absent dead parents, and I combed through my arcs to see what I've got. And I'm going with The Lost Language of Crazy by Pamela L. Laskin. This one, it centers around a 12-year-old girl, and I guess there's discussions about mental illness. And it says in the blurb that she grew up thinking her mother was dead. So being that it says that, I don't know if her mother really is dead, but I still think that it fits the trope, and I will be really curious to see what happens. The next trope is time loop, or you can choose the alternate prompt of a reread. I personally hate the time loop trope. I have read several books with a time loop, and I just never seem to enjoy them, so I'm going with a reread. All right, and I'm giving myself options for whatever I feel in that moment. So my first option is The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang. So I reread Poppy War earlier this year. I want to reread The Dragon Republic before I go on to The Burning God. And I feel bad because I got The Burning God as an arc and I just never got around to it, but I just want to do it justice by like plunging myself into that story, fully remembering everything. Okay, but that's only choice one. Choice two is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. So I never read A Court of Silver Flames, which came out this year because I wanted to reread these ones before I went into that one. Are you sensing a theme here? Okay, it's kind of the way that I like to go into books that I haven't picked up in a while. And my third option is Raybearer by Jordan Afueco. So I have the arc for Redemptor by Jordan Afueco. I believe that comes out September? I think it comes out in August. I think it comes out very soon, all right, which I'm using to fit another prompt. You'll see. This one I really enjoyed. I think I remember everything, so I am guessing that I'll probably go for Dragon Republic or A Court of Thorns and Roses over this one, but again, I'm giving myself options and I will see how I feel when that time comes. The next trope is found family, or you can go with the alternative prompt, which is a group or buddy read. I'm gonna go with Where Dreams Descend by Janella Angelis, because this one seems to focus around like a circus family, and to me, whenever I think circus, I think found family. It could very well happen that I read this book and there's not a found family and they all hate each other or something. I don't know. But when I see something that's kind of circusy, I just assume that it's gonna have a found family. The next trope is coming of age, or you can choose the alternative one, which is a book that has a protagonist that is the same age as you. So I combed through my books that I've got for this one, and on my arc shelf, I've got Catherine Parr by Alison Ware. Now, I actually had to look up how old Catherine Parr was. So from the time that she married Henry, she was 31, and the time of her death was 36. I am 35, so somewhere in this book, I'm gonna be the same age as her, and I think a big chunk of this book is going to be her marriage with Henry to the day that she died. The next trope is food themed, or you could choose the alternative prompt of a meaty book, which is over 500 pages. I am going with Arsenic and Adobo by Mia P. Manansala. I like this one because it's just like a mystery that revolves around food. I think the name of the series, oh yes, Tita Rosie's Kitchen Mystery. So this is gonna be a series. This is the first one in the series, and it's just like a series of murders around food in a kitchen. It's like, I think it sounds great. The next trope is Blast from the Past, or you could choose the alternative prompt of a book that was published before the year 2000. I am going with Blast from the Past. I am going to read Influence by Sarah Shepard and Lilia Buckingham. All right, so this one, it seems like a social media influencer person, and then somebody, what was the direct quote? Somebody comes out of the shadows with a secret from her past. That sounds like Blast from the Past to me. The next trope is mixed media, or you could choose the alternative prompt of audiobook or an ebook. I'm gonna go with ebook because I need to read a lot of arcs that are on my shelf, and I chose Heart of Snow by Catherine Buell. This is a Snow White retelling. Listen, you know that I love my retellings, and I know that there's a retelling prompt on here, which I will have another book for because I have a stack of retellings I can't wait to get to. The next trope is post-apocalyptic, or the alternative prompt of a book with fire on the cover. I am going with Strange Things Await by Jamila A. Stone. Look at that fire on the cover, okay? So this one I actually got as an ARC from NetGalley, but it was one of those things that you request it and you don't pay attention to the date that it came out. And I realized that I requested something that came out in 2019. And I was like, oh, okay, that's just gonna go on the back burner. That's not gonna be a priority for me. But you know what? It has fire on the cover, so I'm looking forward to reading it. Well, yes and no. I'm looking forward to reading it because it's like a magical school. Not looking forward to reading it because I think it has like a 2.6, 2.7 on Goodreads. And I was like, oh no, it's gonna be one of those again. But hey, you never know. Sometimes I really like a book that other people seem to hate. So hopefully the same thing will happen here. The next trope is historical figure, or you could choose a book that is published in 2021. So I chose one of my arcs, all right? I'm a little behind on this one. I chose Fay Away by Rose Garcia. So this one is about fairies and they fall in love. Well, I think one of them is a fairy and one of them is a human, and they like look through the water and see each other, and you know what happens next, but it seems like it's up my alley. The next trope is all happens in one day. Or you could choose the alternative prompt of read a book in 24 hours. I'm going with the alternative prompt. So last month for the Olympic Games readathon, I actually read Hitch, The Bachelorette by G.K. DeRosa, and I loved it. I loved it so much. I devoured it, and I definitely read it in one day. So I'm just choosing the next book, okay? This one is Hitch, The Top 10 by G.K. DeRosa, and I know that I'm just gonna fly through it just as fast. The next trope is multiple POV, points of view, or you could choose the alternative prompt of multiple POC, people of color. So I'm going with the alternative prompt, and I'm going with Redemptor by Jordan Afueco. So I mentioned Ray Bear earlier, that's the first book, this is the second book, and I think it's only a duology. I don't think it's going any further. I could be wrong, I'll let you know when I read it, but there's definitely multiple people of color in here, so it fits the prompt. The next trope up, new kid in town, or you could choose the alternative prompt of read a genre that you don't normally read. So I'm kind of like adapting new kid in town. I am going with A Dragon Bird in the Fern by Laura Ruckert, and this one comes out in August, so I need to read it before it comes out because it's on my shelf. So the premise is that like she has to marry this guy that was engaged to her sister, but somebody murdered her sister, and they demand that she takes her sister's place to like honor the pact between these two kingdoms or towns or whatever, okay? So she has to go to this completely new place. New kid in town, right? I mean, and the whole time she's like trying to figure out who murdered her sister and why. And again, I'm an SLP, a speech language pathologist, so I like when things have like a speech language theme to them, and the main character in this apparently has dyslexia, so not only is she going to a new place where they might speak a different language, but she has dyslexia, so it's gonna be hard for her to decipher the words on the page as well. Like, that just sounds right up my alley. And the next trope is retelling. Okay, you already know that I'm gonna choose that one instead of the alternative prompt, but I'll tell you what the alternative prompt is anyway. The alternative is a book with a TV or a movie adaptation. All right, who's to say that this won't get a TV or movie adaptation in the future? Who knows? Okay, but I'm going with retelling. I'm going with Shadow in the Glass by J.J. Harwood. This one is a Cinderella retelling. I don't know much more about it other than that, but listen, when I see fairy tale retelling, I just click request. I would like to read it. So the next prompts are team specific. So if you remember from the past two Trope-ical Readathons, I have been on team science fiction fantasy. So there have been a lot of people on that team, so they decided to split it up. So now there's a team science fiction and a team fantasy, so that, you know, we just have more even disbursement. I bet you there's gonna be a bunch of people on each team. So anyway, I went through the prompts because I like science fiction and I like fantasy, and I just decided to go for the team that had the prompts that I wanted to read. I went with team fantasy because I looked at the prompts for science fiction and I saw cryo sleep and climate change, and I was like, nope to both of those. Okay, fantasy is much more up my alley. So the first So the first specific prompt for Team Fantasy is that you have to choose a book with dragons in it. So now I'm going with the third book in Hitched, okay? This one is like the final 5 or the top 5 or something like that. But all of these supernatural suitors that are gunning for the Bachelorette, like there are gargoyles and dragons and werewolves and vampires, and it's a big mix of things. But I know that 2 of the main characters that will carry over from book 1 are dragons, so I'm just gonna guess that they're gonna make it forward to book 3, or at least one of them will. And the next prompt for Team Fantasy is that you have to choose a book with a prophecy trope. I'm going with The Chosen Ones by Veronica Roth. So this one is exactly as it sounds. There's like a prophecy about this group of kids, and then they fulfill the prophecy, and then they're expected to figure out how to live their lives after the prophecy has already been fulfilled. Then something happens, and then they figure out that the prophecy is much bigger than anybody ever thought. I don't know. I don't know what the prophecy is, but it fits the trope, and I love Divergent by Veronica Roth. We won't talk about Allegiant because I did not love that one. Okay, but I'm gonna hope that this is in the vein of Divergent, okay, making me so excited. There is also a specific book that's chosen for each team. And I think you can do these for each team and still gain points for your team. So each team is given 2 books. You choose one of them to get the points for your team. If you read both, doesn't matter. You're still getting only points once, okay? So you need to choose one of the books. The 2 books that were chosen for Team Fantasy are She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan and The Extraordinaries by TJ Klune. I'm gonna go with The Extraordinaries by TJ Klune because I recently read The House in the Cerulean Sea and I enjoyed it. Like, it wasn't a knockout home run for me. I didn't give it 5 stars like everybody else seems to, but I enjoyed it enough that I would want to try something else by him. So I'm gonna go with The Extraordinaries by TJ Klune. I also went through the other books that are noted for each team. Like, I know that for team nonfiction poetry, there's no way I would want to pick up any of those, okay? Like, that's just not my jam. But I looked through the other ones, and the ones that I was interested in were on romance and mystery horror thriller. So the book that I'm gonna choose for romance is XOXO by Axio. And the book that I'm gonna choose from mystery horror thriller is The Taking of Jake Livingston by Ryan Douglas. Both of those sound interesting for me. For the other teams, for science fiction, for nonfiction poetry, and what's the other one I'm leaving out? Contemporary. Is that it? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I think there's only 6 teams. I looked at those other books and I was like, I have no interest reading, and I have a lot on my plate for August, so I'm not gonna add those in. But you know what? The last time that I did this readathon, I got through all of the prompts. March was a very big reading month for me, so I'm hoping that it'll be just as big this time around. So again, if this sounds interesting to you, I'm gonna leave all the links below with the information so that you can join. Hopefully you join Team Fantasy, but I understand if you wanna choose a different team if we don't have the same tastes. All right, that's all I've got for you today. Thank you for tuning in to Elise Reads and Speaks, and I will catch you next time, guys. Bye.